People don't like to admit this, but the truth about sexual attraction is darker than most imagine. It's powerful, it's intoxicating, and it's the reason many fall into the wrong relationships. What if I told you that what pulls you towards someone is rarely what keeps you with them? Today, I'm going to break down the darkest truths about sexual attraction that no one wants to talk about. First, attraction isn't love, it's biology. Attraction isn't love, it's biology. This is one of the harshest truths many people fail to accept. We live in a culture where chemistry is often glorified as destiny, where the butterflies in your stomach are mistaken for soul connections, and where the instant spark is labeled as something divine. But the reality is far more raw. Sexual attraction is your biology working against your logic. It's hormones, dopamine, adrenaline, and evolutionary wiring that push you towards someone based on survival instincts, not emotional alignment. The problem begins when people misinterpret this initial fire as lasting love, when in fact it is just nature's way of getting two bodies closer, not necessarily two souls closer. This confusion ruins countless relationships because once the chemical storm fades, people are left with incompatibility, unmet needs, and an empty bond that cannot stand on attraction alone. Think about how quickly attraction strikes. A glance, a smile, body language, and suddenly your mind is hooked. That intensity feels real, but it's just your nervous system lighting up. The rush of attraction can be so overpowering that it blinds you to everything else about a person, their values, their character, their integrity. You see only what your body responds to, not who they truly are. And yet people often jump into relationships with this false confidence, believing the fire they feel will translate into deep love. The darkest truth here is that biology is temporary. Nature never designed attraction to last forever. It is built to fade, forcing you to look beyond lust and into substance. When two people confuse attraction with love, they build fragile relationships. They start believing that because they feel strongly, it must mean something special. But in time, when attraction slows down, the truth becomes hard to face. What's left when the excitement wears off? If there is no respect, no shared vision, no loyalty, then what they thought was love reveals itself as a temporary rush. This is why so many relationships fall apart after the honeymoon phase. It wasn't love, it was chemistry dressed up as destiny. People end up chasing that feeling again and again, falling for faces, bodies, and charm, without ever realizing they are running in circles led by biology, not wisdom. It takes strength to see attraction for what it really is. It's not evil, but it's not everything. Attraction opens the door, but it doesn't build the house. It creates the spark, but it cannot maintain the fire. True love is a choice, a discipline, and a commitment, not a rush of chemicals in your bloodstream. Those who understand this difference are able to rise above the illusions of desire. They don't mistake intensity for intimacy, and they don't confuse connection with compatibility. Instead, they step back and measure whether the person they're drawn to can stand the test of consistency, trust, and growth. Because when the biology fades, and it always does, what's left will determine whether it was ever love at all. So send looks spark it, but depth sustains it. Looks spark it, but depth sustains it. The first thing that draws people toward each other is often appearance. It's undeniable that physical attraction is the initial pull, the first signal that awakens interest. A smile, the way someone carries themselves, their style, or even just the confidence in their eyes. These are the sparks that ignite curiosity. But the problem arises when people mistake that spark for something everlasting. Attraction that begins from looks alone is fragile, and once the surface charm wears off, reality steps in. What many don't realize is that while appearance can open the door, it cannot keep it open. Depth, character, values, and emotional connection are what truly sustain attraction in the long run. Without them, even the most beautiful face loses its glow with time, and the most perfect body becomes ordinary once familiarity sets in. When you rely solely on looks, you are building a connection on unstable ground. External beauty is powerful, yes, but it is also fleeting. People age, features change, and the initial rush of being with someone good-looking eventually fades into normalcy. What remains important after that is whether the person has substance, whether they have qualities that go beyond the surface. This is why many people find themselves bored or dissatisfied after the honeymoon phase of a relationship. The attraction that seemed overwhelming at first no longer excites them because there was no depth to sustain it. They chased the spark but ignored the foundation, and once the spark burned out, they were left with emptiness. Depth, however, works differently. Depth is about who the person really is when the lights are off, when the makeup is gone, when the thrill of newness fades. It's about their mindset, their values, their emotional intelligence, and how they treat you when no one is watching. Depth builds stability because it creates respect, admiration, and trust. And those things are far more powerful than the rush of seeing someone attractive. People who have depth draw others in, not just for how they look, but for how they make others feel. They carry presence, they inspire growth, and they bring peace rather than chaos. Looks may start the fire, but depth is the fuel that keeps it burning. The truth is, many fall into the trap of chasing appearances because it is easy and immediate. Society glorifies beauty, and many people subconsciously believe that if someone looks good, then the relationship will feel good too. But time always reveals the truth. Physical attraction alone cannot keep two people bonded when real challenges arise. It cannot solve conflicts, it cannot provide emotional safety, and it cannot guarantee loyalty. What sustains a relationship through storms is depth, the ability to understand, to grow together, to remain consistent, and to value something beyond the surface. When you begin to prioritize depth over looks, you shift from chasing temporary sparks to building lasting flames. Because no matter how powerful beauty is at the start, only depth has the strength to carry love forward. Third, uncontrolled desire creates dependency. Uncontrolled desire creates dependency, and this is one of the most dangerous traps in relationships. When someone becomes consumed by attraction or desire, they begin to lose their sense of clarity and self-control. The emotional and physical pull becomes so strong that it overrides logic, and suddenly the person they are drawn to becomes the center of their world. At first, it feels intoxicating, like passion, like intensity, like something rare. But in reality, it's dependency disguised as connection. The individual starts to believe they cannot function or feel whole without the other person, which strips them of power and autonomy. This dependency weakens their ability to make wise decisions because every choice becomes influenced by the fear of losing that physical or emotional bond. When desire is unchecked, it often leads people to tolerate behaviors they would never normally accept. They start excusing red flags, overlooking lies, and allowing disrespect simply because the attraction feels too strong to walk away from. Instead of drawing boundaries, they erase them. Instead of demanding respect, they settle for crumbs. all because the dependency created by desire convinces them that leaving would feel unbearable. This is where many people fall into toxic cycles, believing that the chemistry they feel is proof of love, when in reality, it is only proof of their own lack of control. The darkest truth is that dependency born from desire makes you a prisoner of your emotions, chained to someone who may not even value you. This dependency can also create imbalances of power in relationships. The one who is less controlled by desire often holds the upper hand, while the one consumed by it becomes needy, desperate, perfection, but about presence. If you remain grounded, if you show that you are not ruled by emotion or lust, if you lead with consistency, she sees a man worth following. She may enjoy intimacy, but she craves reassurance that the bond is not built only on desire. A man who understands this truth never fears her tests, because he knows they are not meant to break him, but to reveal who he really is. And once he proves that his value goes beyond the bedroom, he earns something far greater than attraction. He earns her respect, and with respect comes a loyalty no physical spark can replace. Fifth, attraction can blind you to red flags. Attraction can blind you to red flags. And this is one of the most painful realities people experience in relationships. When you feel a strong pull towards someone, your brain often works against you. The chemicals released during attraction, dopamine, serotonin, adrenaline, create a high that feels intoxicating. That high tricks you into seeing the person through a filter where their flaws don't seem as serious and their questionable behavior feels excusable. You convince yourself that what you feel must mean something rare, so you push aside the doubts that surface. This blindness is why people stay in toxic situations far longer than they should. The attraction becomes a shield, covering the truth that this person may not be healthy for you, and in that blindness, you begin to mistake intensity for compatibility. It often starts small. Maybe they ignore your boundaries once, or they show patterns of inconsistency, but you tell yourself it's not a big deal because the connection feels so strong. Maybe they are disrespectful in subtle ways, but the chemistry you feel convinces you to overlook it. Instead of facing the discomfort of walking away, you rationalize the behavior and focus on the moments when things feel good. This is how attraction makes people blind. It makes the highs feel so powerful that they outweigh the lows, even when the lows are damaging. People begin to silence their own intuition, choosing to believe in the feeling rather than the reality.